All people are created equal. Well, except for doing the things that we're about to discuss. Today we're going to be talking about 10 things most humans can't do. Number 1 is something that is literally eye-popping, so stay tuned for that. With all that said and done, let's begin, shall we? Number 10. Raising one eyebrow. If Dwayne The Rock can do it, why can't you? Yes, one of life's greatest mysteries, probably, is why the most electrifying man in all of entertainment is able to attain fame and fortune just by doing something that most people can't, that being raising one eyebrow. Also being just a generally good actor and good person in general. Yes, there are other factors that surely are more responsible for The Rock being one of the highest paid actors in the world, but if memory serves me right, he was the very first one in pro wrestling to put over raising an eyebrow. Funny thing is, people who can raise a single eyebrow technically can't. The muscle responsible for being able to raise both eyebrows is one and the same. You cannot raise one eyebrow because the whole muscle is connected to both eyes. It is possible that one side is not connected, or even less connected, but that's usually not the case, and such a person would not be able to raise both eyebrows at will. What happens in almost all people is that they are not raising one eyebrow, but instead keeping one eyebrow down and raising both at the same time, thus giving the impression of only raising one. There are various muscles that are able to lower the eyebrows. So if one person is not able to raise one eyebrow, it actually means they are not able to keep the other side down. Before we move on, I've got a little challenge for you that'll take 5 seconds to complete. So here's the deal. You just leave a like on this video, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell, and you will get 25 years of amazing luck. Try it really works. Number 9. Wiggle your ears. Most people can't wiggle their ears because, well, genetics. But before we get into that, let's get one thing straight here. Ear wiggling is not evolution's way to give you a neat party trick. Animals have the ability to swivel their ears independently to point at a sound source because they need to. Knowing where the sound of a potential predator or prey is coming from is often a matter of life and death. Humans, however, have no need to do that, so the muscles responsible for ear movement is generally weak. But in a recent study, ear wiggling is somehow linked to genetics. It was observed that in the case of most ear wigglers, one or both of the parents are also ear wigglers. Most of them will have siblings and or children that are ear wigglers as well. Then again, these people also say that ear wiggling, like any skill infinitely more useful to humans, can be achieved by concentration and constant practice. Number 8. Tickling yourself. You would have to be pretty lonely to even think about tickling yourself. But then again, even if you did try to, you wouldn't be able to. And here's why. Our brains aren't wired to. To understand the concept, let's first find out why people laugh anyway. Today we laugh when we are happy, or when we see something funny, or when we're tickled. It seems that according to scientists, our ancient ancestors used laughing for a totally different purpose, to signal a much stronger person that they don't want to fight. So when one ancient human gets physical with another, the weaker one just laughs it off as a signal to the other that they concede and will not fight back. In a nutshell, laughing was developed as a way of self-preservation, a way to nullify a threat without resorting to fighting or any other form of aggression. So, the simple explanation is you don't laugh when you tickle yourself is because your brain is wired to never think of yourself as a threat. Of course, this is an overly simplistic explanation for the sake of brevity, so I encourage you to do the research yourself. Number 7. Licking your own elbow. I'm 100% sure that at least 75% of you tried to lick your elbow as soon as this segment started, but try as you might, you're not going to be able to do so, except for maybe a lucky few. Why is that though? Because it is a physical impossibility to lick your own elbow. So for the few that are able to, well, get some mutant traits in you there. Now, before you flood the comments saying you know a friend of a friend of a friend's uncle that can lick his own elbow, let me clarify my statement. It is physically impossible for a normal human to lick his own elbow. Emphasis on normal. Of course, there are a few exceptions, like people born with incredibly long tongues. Kind of like that one guy from Kiss who really disturbs me. If you're like Adrienne Lewis, though, who was born with a tongue 3.5 inches long, then licking your own elbow will be a breeze. Adrienne was featured in the Ripley's Believe It or Not book back in 2012. In it, she showed her elbow-licking prowess. Her tongue is so long that she can even lick her own eyes. Ooh, attractive. Number 6. The hitchhiker's thumb. Thumbs were never meant to bend backwards because 1, it looks really painful if you force it, and 2, it looks really disgusting when you see it. But then again, there are people born with this amazing ability. Hitchhiker's thumb is a thumb that is hypermobile, or very flexible, and able to bend backward beyond the normal range of motion. Known formally as distal hyperextensibility, this condition isn't painful, and doesn't inhibit the thumb's function in any way. Your thumb's bendability is controlled by its distal interphalangeal joint, the bendy point at which the bones of your thumb are connected. People with hitchhiker's thumb have distal joints that can bend back as far as 90 degrees. This looks similar to the classic roadside hitchhiker's pose, thumb out in hopes of hitching a ride. Some people can bend only one of their thumbs backwards, but a fortunate few will be able to do this with both thumbs. Number 5. Gleeking. You know how sometimes, especially when you get a yawn attack and you bust out in a big old gaper that just takes over your face, sometimes saliva spurts out of your mouth like a snake's venom? I've experienced it too much to my dismay. Either way, that's gleeking. Your jaw and mouth have dozens of muscles, and sometimes you'll be doing some mouth thing and hit just the right combination and you'll squeeze the ducts that run out of your sublingual salivary glands. Ordinarily, the ducts just sit there passively like water pipes while the glands ooze out saliva to keep our mouths juicy. Ignoring these mental images, squeezing them forces the saliva out in a spray. We can't gleek again until they refill. This act seems to serve no other purpose but as a party trick to both amaze and disgust your friends at the same time. Some people can do it naturally, but if you find yourself envious and want to gain this, amazing skill, don't worry, you can teach yourself how to gleek on purpose by gathering enough saliva, flicking your tongue along the roof of your mouth, and jutting your jaw out. In fact, there are people out there that are ready and willing to teach you how to do it. There is even an article on WikiHow teaching you how to gleek, complete with pictures. Oh. Number 4. Twitching your nose. It seems like nose twitching is an actual medical condition. Seriously, I'm not kidding. Doctors have said that involuntary nose twitching can be the result of muscle cramps, dehydration, or stress. It may even be an early sign of a medical condition, so if you find your nose twitching on its own accord, better see a doctor. Nose twitching can also be a sign of vitamin deficiency. To maintain optimum health and proper muscle function, your body needs key nutrients and vitamins. Vitamins and minerals ensure proper blood circulation, nerve function, and muscle tone. Taking certain kinds of medication may also cause your nose to twitch on its own. Also nerve damage to the face. More worryingly, it could also be an early sign of Tourette's syndrome, which is a neurological disorder that causes you to experience involuntary movements and vocalized tics. If you watch YouTube in the early days of it, you probably know what Tourette's looks like. Of course, there are some people who can voluntarily twitch their noses. Funnily enough, the writer who wrote this script is one of them, but then again, he's the only one he knows who can do so. Even actress Elizabeth Montgomery at the classic show Bewitched just moved her lip to give the illusion of twitching her nose. But like gleeking, nose twitching can be achieved by constant practice. Number 3. Putting your fist in your mouth. If you're an average human, unfortunately, you won't be able to put your fist in your mouth. But the real question is, why would you even want to? But for the sake of people wanting to understand why this is impossible for most people, let me explain why. In order for this to be possible for you, you need to possess two things: small hands and a big mouth. If you're an average Joe, your ball fist is around 6 inches across. If you're like me though, you got monster hands. And your mouth, fully open, would be around 2.75 inches. Have you ever tried to insert a 6-inch peg into a 3-inch hole and is successful in doing so? Without hammering it? If you are Francisco Domingo Joaquim, however, putting a fist in your mouth isn't really an issue. At an eye-watering 6.69 inches, Francisco has the biggest mouth in the world, according to the Guinness Book of World Records. In fact, his gum is so big that he can fit an entire soft drink inside of it. And this was horizontally, mind you. This has led to him being nicknamed the Angolan Jaw of Awe in his home country of Angola. Now it's time for the day's best pick. And today's best pick is, like all of the entries on this list, is something only a few of us can actually do. But it's also definitely pointless aside from giving a few minutes of entertainment. Are you one of the people who can do this? Number 2. Curling your tongue. There is a belief that the ability to do different tongue tricks is the result of genetic inheritance. Rolling the tongue into a tube shape is often described as a dominant trait, and there are not very many people who can do it. Although one of them is your beloved handsome narrator, so that's gotta say something. Interestingly, tongue curling ability is not solely genetic, and the genetic component may be very small. There are even identical twins that don't share the ability to curl their tongues. Rather, tongue curling can be done by anyone with sufficient practice. And it seems all humans are already equipped with the necessary tools to achieve tongue curling. For example, we already constantly move our tongues so that we don't bite them when we eat, and for swirling food around. For unknown reasons, some individuals are better than others at a controlling tongue movement. And since the ability can be acquired by practicing, though not everybody apparently succeeds, it does seem likely that it's indeed a question of motor control. Number 1. Sneezing with your eyes open. This is probably the most impossible thing to do in this list. Sneezing while keeping your eyes open is definitely impossible. It's an autonomous reflex, meaning that your body does it involuntarily in response to stimulus, i.e. sneezing in this case. There's also a myth that when you sneeze with your eyes open, your eyeballs are gonna pop out. Tales swirled for decades, speculating that subluxation or dislocation of the eyeball could occur if people sneeze with their eyes open. Many point to a story published on April 30th, 1882, in the New York Times that reported an incident of a woman whose eyeball became unhinged from aggressively sneezing. Of course, this has already been proven false on national TV by Mythbuster Adam Savage, who risked life and limb, or in this case his eyesight, to show people that the force of a sneeze is not enough to pop your eyes out of their sockets. He did this by inducing a sneeze while holding his eyes open with his hands. His eyes were fine after the experiment, definitely busting the age-old myth, and also proving that Mythbusters is still awesome. Can you do any of the things on our list? Let us know in the comments section down below. Want to watch more videos about amazing things people can do? Click on any of the videos you see on your screen. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Later, everybody.